How do I describe Hogfather? Well, it's where the speech that changed my life came from. But honestly, that makes it rather difficult to describe as a book on its own. See, when I first read that speech, something changed in me. A new sense of awareness of what I wanted to do and be as a writer was gained, and there is a distinct difference of quality and purpose between the stuff I wrote before and after that speech. But the problem is that I read that speech before I read the actual Hogfather book. Before I read any Discworld book, even. And even if that speech was what finally convinced me to read Discworld, hype is a powerful force. So, even though Hogfather was something of a milestone for me, where with each successive book I grew more and more excited as I drew closer and closer to it, this excitement started to turn into a warped kind of dread. There was simply no way Hogfather itself could be as spectacular and wonderful as the expectations my mind had made. It was going to be only ordinary, and that was going to kill me. And now I am faced with the almost impossible task of conveying not simply what that speech meant to me, but the conflicted emotions I felt when I finally got down to reading the whole of Hogfather. What is Hogfather? It's the book that changed me. The story that made me see the truth in fiction. The speech that taught me how myth and fable are integral to what makes us human. But, to give a less abstract answer, Hogfather is the story of Susan Sto-Helit and her grandfather Death, who once again get embroiled in a plot by the Auditors of Reality to destroy the universe and replace it with a newer, tidier one. This time the Auditors' plan is simple: hire a private assassin to take out the Hogfather, Discworld's equivalent of Santa Claus. With this done, a tiny tear in the fabric of reality will be made, starting a chain reaction that will end with the whole of existence being ripped to shreds. But there's one thing the Auditors haven't planned for, and it's death. Yes, if the Hogfather is indisposed this Hogswatch night, then death will take his place. Of course, if you've seen that other instance of a skeleton man taking over for Santa, I think you know how well this will pan out. How does the world of Hogfather work? Hogfather concerns the titular Hogfather and the holiday associated with him, Hogswatch. And while the Christmas parallels are obvious and intentional, Pratchett's exploration of the holiday goes far deeper than your average Christmas special. A whole cavalcade of different Christmas myths, stories, traditions, and commodifications are explored here, and with the signature irreverence we've come to expect from Sir Terry. In this book, you'll not only see send-ups to Little Match Girls and Nights Before Christmas, but also mall Santas, holiday advertising slogans, and even Virginia and her famous letter. Even if taken purely at face value, these references are pretty impressive. The fact that Pratchett juggled all these things at once and made each of them funny in their own way is a far greater feat than what most writers could manage. What makes Hogfather even more special, though, is the thematic purpose these references play, which ties into the question, what does Hogfather have to say? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. In true Christmas special fashion, Death flat out tells Susan the moral of this story at the end.
Alright, I'm not stupid. You're saying that humans need fantasies to make life bearable?
No. Humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape.
With tooth fairies, Hogfathers.
Yes. As practice, you have to start out learning to believe the little lies.
So we can believe the big ones?
Yes. Justice, mercy, duty, that sort of thing.
They're not the same at all.
You think so? Then take the universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve, and then show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. And yet, you try to act as if there is some ideal order in the world, as if there is some rightness in the universe by which it may be judged.
But people have got to believe that. What's the point?
You need to believe in things that aren't true. How else can they become?
And as a moral, it's one I can get behind. However, I think there's an element to this speech that doesn't get talked about very much. See, there's this idea that gained traction in the 90s, when Hogfather was written, and which still has its followers today. It's this idea that the fall of the Berlin Wall signaled a new age, one where logos, facts, reason, scientific rationalism, had fully overtaken mythos, legend, superstition, spiritual belief, and that the new default state of humanity was one of devout and unflinching materialism. You could see this in works ranging from the academic texts of Michael Dames to tabletop RPGs like Mage the Ascension. Here's the thing though, this idea is nonsense. It was always nonsense, but in the age we live in of QAnon and COVID denialism, its flaws have only become more evident. Just because church attendance is dwindling and old myths are dying out, people are still more than willing to believe wild, outlandish things that fly in the face of logic and reason. Hell, many conspiracy theorists cite logic and reason to back up their beliefs. Even something as outlandish as the Flat Earth Society structures its arguments around logos, despite the very idea being quite clearly mythos. And yeah, it's easy to dismiss conspiracy theorists as credulous rubes and laugh at them, until their actions lead to actual violence, that is, but let's consider, why do these people believe these things? Well, we live in a bleak, depressing, scary world, and the idea of a grand malevolent conspiracy being behind all this malaise offers comfort and security. It gives purpose to the people who believe these things, which is why they cling to their beliefs so tightly. Because if you did take the universe and ground it down to the finest powder, sieved it through the finest sieve, you wouldn't find any real purpose or point in us being here. And that's pretty scary to a lot of people. So, the idea that humans are on the way towards complete rejection of belief in higher truths or myths is simply not correct. Because the impulse to find a purpose in life will always be with us. We will always be looking for some answer to the question of why we're here and what the point is to our existence. And even if the answer we settle on is, hell if I know, and to live a decent life, that's still something. And it's that something that makes us human. Final verdict. So, something that was brought to my attention recently is how my videos tend to focus less on plot structure and characterization, and more on broader themes and messages, which, yeah, okay, that's fair. I don't know if you would call that a flaw or a quirk of my content, but it's definitely something that I do. But when I look at myself, and I seriously ponder why this is, why that's how I consume and discuss media, I think a big reason is Hogfather. Before reading Death's speech, I thought that stories were all about plot and characters, and those are certainly major aspects of stories, which every fledgling writer ought to master when they set out. But before Discworld, I thought that stuff like themes and messages were for boring old literary tomes. You know, the kind of stuff that you have to read for 8th grade book reports. And who wants to write that? I wanted to write fun, pulpy romps with quirky characters having cool adventures. And it really wasn't until that speech that I realized... Wait, fun, pulpy romps can have themes too? Yeah, it sounds silly now, but it is thanks to Discworld that I realized something doesn't have to be florid and stuffy to be deep and meaningful. Every work of art, every piece of media can have something to say. And when I think about what makes Discworld so great, it's the fact that Sir Terry gave 110% on every aspect of his books. He didn't simply set out to write fun, pulpy romps, or hard-hitting satire, or treatises on myth and human nature, but all of them at the same time. Honestly, that's probably why I felt so conflicted when I finally sat down and read Discworld. Even after learning my lesson, I still sort of assumed that such a deep, meaningful speech would warrant a more somber, serious story to surround it. But Hogfather is still very much a fun, pulpy romp, like The Color of Magic. It's just that Pratchett has gotten better at writing romps, just as he's gotten better at writing themes and shit. When I finally sat down and read Hogfather, I was expecting the whole book to be another revelatory moment on par with the effect the speech had on my life. And when that didn't happen, I wasn't really sure how to feel. But I think... hold on. So there's this little parable, which I guess kind of sums up... Just bear with me. But okay, so there's this fish, alright, and he wants to find the ocean, and so he goes looking for it, and he swims and swims and swims, miles and miles and miles and miles, days and days and days and days, and finally he just gives up, and he asks another fish, he's like, hey, I'm looking for the ocean, do you know where it is? And the other fish goes, well, what are you talking about? You're already in the ocean. And the first fish goes, what are you talking about? You know, I'm looking for the ocean, this is water. Like I said, Hogfather is kind of on the nose with regards to its moral, which made it rather easy to cram through the thick skull of a younger me. And as I swam through all the moments leading up to Death and Susan's conversation, I sort of assumed that I would find more of those plainly stated, easily digestible morals. But I didn't, because the balance between fun romps and deeper themes isn't usually stated so plainly in Discworld. Rather, it's demonstrated through the stories themselves. I can sit here and sing Discworld's praises all the livelong day, but I'm never going to capture the full experience of actually reading it. Because, like Christmas, it's such an amalgamation of different things. Any explanation to an outsider would inevitably leave out something. At the very least, though, I can give Hogfather a 10 out of 10 for this perfect balance of all these multifarious themes, puns, plots, jokes, thrills, spills, and Christmas magic. In the meantime, I'm Marc signing off, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, and you would like to see me make more, please leave a like or comment down below, share my video via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or other means, and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you would like to help this channel out, I now have a Patreon which you can contribute to via the link in the description. If you sign up, you'll get sweet bonuses like an internet hug, early access to videos, and the ability to vote in polls to help me decide which works to cover next. Also, if I manage to get to 250 subscribers by the end of this year, that is 250 YouTube subscribers by January 1st, 2022, I will play and stream Dragon Quest V for you all. Let's make this happen, people. I want to do this so badly. Please, come on, help me out. Please, please, please. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next one.